think we're recording now. Okay, here we go. Yeah, how are you doing? As I promised you, I am Obsidian, and the poet Obsidian, and I am returning to commiserate. That's not the word. Continue reading my excerpts from my poem from the book Zen is Now. So I'm going to start off without any preamble with the first poem, which is entitled "Poetry of My Dreams." Here we go. Burn me. Burn me in the flames of my forefathers. Burn me as I have always in the poetry of my dreams. Well, I was a 14-year-old skinny boy when my grandfather died. I remember the fool of a rascal wide-eyed, walking up to touch the cold gray lifeless flesh of my father's hand. It was cold and lifeless, like stone as igneous rock, and a fancy coffin lying in repose while a Baptist choir's gospel rose trembling the high wooden ceiling timbers above. In a Harlem church, no salvation, just stone. So burn me in the flames of my forefathers. Burn me like the heathen kings of old in Africa, like a mandingo. Well, again, I was a 32-year-old man-child with a Spanish wife, forsaken to roam the enclosures of a funeral parlor in Albany, New York, while my mustached father himself laid in silent torpor. The husk of the shell that he used to be resting flat-chested in a cheap wooden box, a chest that used to swell with such pride. I knew it was not him, and that he was a noble mulatto, quaint and quite ahead of his time. He used to say to me, "Burn me, son, and sprinkle my ashes in the Hudson River, 'cause on the Hudson River I was born in 1934, a little time before the Second World War. I hustled sailors and soldiers into brothels and gambling dens, quit school when I was 13, made more money than the goddamn teachers, made more money than all of them. Cancer took him out, made him thin, so we burned him. His ashes we mingled with the Hudson River to be ferried out to the great sea. My grandfather was a master mason before he became stone. He had 33 degrees, donned a red fez cap and a greasy auto mechanic's apron, hunched over the hoods of cars with names that no longer lined the streets, drank whiskey, played deacon in a chicken eater's church, and drank whiskey and chased obese women while listening to blues on scratchy 75s, escaped the Jim Crow woods of the Southern Virginia province to underground to the promised land of the North. We burned him not, but eschewing pagan tradition, we lowered him into the ground like a foundation cornerstone in a shallow grave by no watermark, his granite-like body to slowly decay over the long stretch of time, along with the eventual decline of Western civilization. And me? Well, at last, I'm tired of the merry-go-round. A veteran of the New York poetry scene and of the US of A, of the political polemics of open mics, slam poetry pageants, shout-outs, shut the fuck ups, and whatever else one might be so inclined to call the arts. I wore 2 wedding rings and scribbled several novels which couldn't serve as toilet paper, closed my eyes every time I fired my rifle in the infantry, fell out of a helicopter before I made it down range, forsook my piano lessons as a teenager to take up the quill and to become a mystical poet from the Bronx. So when the last sonnet of verses escape from my tortured mouth, and my poetry rises heavenward to merge with the far-reaching northwesterly winds, burn me, burn me in the flames of my forefathers, burn me like the heathen kings of old, of Africa, like a mandingo, sprinkle my silent ashes like a sacrament upon the shores of the East River, which commingle inevitably with the Hudson River and out to the eternal embrace of the Great Sea. Let me confluence with the counsel of my forefathers. Let me burn as I always have in the poetry of my dreams. Thank you very much for joining me in this reading of the excerpts of my book Zen is Now. That poem was called Poetry of My Dreams. Once again, I am the poet Obsidian, and we will continue with some metadata. I have to give you information concerning the book and where to find it and so forth in my next video. So thank you very much and have a nice evening.